President Bola Tinubu presided over the Council of State meeting at the State House in Abuja. The meeting had in attendance former presidents and heads of state, including General Yakubu Gowon, Muhammadu Buhari, Goodluck Jonathan, and General Abdulsalami Abubakar. Meanwhile, the Council of State passed the vote of confidence in President Bola Tinubu's administration's leadership and ability to manage the affairs of the nation at this time. On this and other national issues, let's speak with Senator Shuaib Afolabi Salisu. Is the Chairman, Senate Committee on ICT and Cybersecurity, and is also the Vice Chairman, Senate Committee on Media and Publicity. Also joining us tonight is Ayodele Adewale, Political Affairs Analyst. Gentlemen, good evening to you, and thank you very much for joining us on Politics Tonight. Thank you. Gentlemen, if you can hear me. Senator, good evening to you. How are you today, sir? Distinguished, can you hear me? Welcome to the program. Right, so the Council of State... All right,
thank you very clearly.
All right, thank you for joining us once again. So the Council of State is an important institution and has now passed a vote of confidence on the president. These are statesmen who have had a stake in this project in Nigeria. Well, what does this mean to this administration?
Thank you. Let's put this in context. The composition of the Council of State includes the president, the vice president, the former heads of states and president, the Senate president, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, past Chief Justice of Nigeria, and of course the governors of the state. What this means is that Nigeria is represented both in terms of the three arms of government, the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature. It's also represented in terms of the federating unit. All the governors of the 36 states are also members of the Council of State, including the Attorney General and the Honorable Minister of Justice. When these eminent Nigerians come together, the people who have seen it all, in terms of peace, in terms of war, people who also manage the federated unit, when they come together and they pass a vote of confidence in the president, it only means two or three things. Number one, it means we endorse all of the reforms, all of the steps we have taken so far. We have confidence in you to lead us through this challenging period and get us to a situation where the benefits of these reforms will become manifest. It also means we're encouraging you not to turn back. Let's stay the course, and therefore the entire country, both in terms of the arms of government and in terms of the governors of the state, that pass a vote of confidence in the president. So the president has the support of eminent Nigerians, former president, former Chief Justice of the Federation, and the leadership of the federating unit and the National Assembly. So I think it boosts the reform agenda and to also strengthen the president to continue on the track of the reforms.
Right, so does this also speak to the belief and confidence they have in the president's economic policies and his renewed up agenda for the country? Because some Nigerians have said perhaps this is the political class protecting their own. But really, what does this multi-party sectoral endorsement mean to the administration of President Bola Tinubu, especially coming after a 10-day nationwide protest?
As I said earlier, we cannot begin to ascribe partisanship to these eminent people. You have General Gowon. General Gowon led this country through the Civil War. You have General Abdulsalami Abubakar. You have the major past president. You are the president before him. These are people who have come from different backgrounds, from different political persuasions. They are no longer people you can pigeonhole in terms of partisan demarcation. They are people who are statesmen not just in Nigeria. These are people who have also taken on international assignments on behalf of the country, on behalf of the continent, and on behalf of the global body. So this endorsement has nothing to do, absolutely nothing to do with partisan politics. The people we're talking about are people who have no reason to noto to anyone, including the president. The Constitution empowers them as the highest advisory body for the country. If they come together, particularly after the 10-day protest. And by the way, we must also recognize that this is a challenging period for the country. But we must also look back. All the countries that have gone through reforms of this nature, those reforms also came with some pain. People would remember Margaret Thatcher's leadership of United Kingdom. People thought Margaret Thatcher was uncaring. People thought she was stone-faced. But at the end of the day, the transformation and the progress that United Kingdom made, both during its regime and subsequently, were a result of that reforms. When you talk about Singapore as an example, Singapore became so challenged that they even wanted to merge with Malaysia. But Lee Kuan Yew came with the reforms, and it turned a small island into a country that everybody talks about. Indira Gandhi did the same thing in India. So what we are passing through is a period that we must necessarily go through in order to address the structural deficiencies that the country has been grappling with, but that no one had the courage to take the decisions. President Bola Tinubu has come, he has the courage to take the decisions, and it's also nimble enough to listen to people and say, I hear your cries, I hear these challenges, but we are going to remain focused. So if the Council of State gets together and say, Mr. President, we feel what we are feeling, we see what we are seeing. I was there as head of sales in my younger years as head of sales Gowon. I was there as your predecessors in office. If all of this come together, and the 36 state governors are also coming together, the 36 governors were not elected on the platform of one political party. They were elected on the platforms of different political parties. They came together and said, Mr. President, as the governors of the Federation Unit, we identify with you, we will support you, forge ahead with this reform. You will find us to be willing partners in this process. And it's also a commitment on their part. We will also go back to our state and do what is required to complement the renewed hope agenda of your administration, and we will also let the people begin to feel even some of the immediate gains of the reform agenda that has continued to percolate down to the state. So the governors are also making a commitment. As much as they're endorsing the president's renewed hope agenda and the reforms, they are also making an implicit commitment to support him and to also ensure that at the state level, they also do what is required to ensure that the pains of the people are addressed in the short terms and the full benefit of reforms are realized even at the subnational level.
All right, so let's put this conversation into proper perspective. Speaking of delivering on good governance, accountability and leadership, you're a member of the ruling party. So for you, what do you consider as the yardstick with which the council passed a vote of confidence in President Tinubu?
The vote of confidence doesn't come too often. When last did you hear the Council of State pass a vote of confidence in any president? It is not something that comes too often. So if it comes because after 1 year in the saddle, past president, governors, former chief justice of the federation, if they come together and say we are passing a vote of confidence, it's because we have seen what we have done in the last 1 year. And we have also listened to the hues and cries of our people. We also know that they are feeling the pains of these reforms. But these are pains that are necessary. We stand with you, we stand by you, we support you, we endorse you. Please do not listen to the naysayer. Don't turn down, don't reverse the gains that we have made in the last 1 year. They are confident these people will not come forward and put their integrity on the line, not on a partisan consideration, to say, Mr. President, please go ahead. And for the leadership of National Assembly, particularly the Senate President and the Speaker, it's also a commitment of the 109 senators in National Assembly, the 360 members of the Federal House of Representatives, to say we will continue to make necessary legislative interventions to support the renewed hope agenda. We would do so within what the Constitution envisages to be the clear line of demarcation between the role of legislator and that of the executive. Complementary roles, but nonetheless, we have our separate responsibilities as enshrined in the Constitution. So if all of these people come together, it simply means that both the people with experience that have gone through this process before, and the legislators were united to support Mr. President. And I think Mr. President should also be encouraged, but he also should be challenged. It means that people are also watching him. The past president, the past head of state, they are watching every step he's taking. The legislators are also watching him. It only means that he will continue to be accountable to people. So, again, we must be very clear. The president or the country had very limited choices. It is either the president will come and continue with what we had on ground, and we can continue to do some palliatives here and there, and the fundamental dysfunction in the system will remain. But he has come to make these very bold decisions to correct and put Nigeria on a path of sustainable development. However, we must also continue to remind the president, and indeed all of us who are in the position of leadership, that people are feeling the pains, and we must continue to do all we can do to address the pains both in the short terms, so that they will even be there when the benefit of the long term comes. But there's no doubt in my mind at all that the vote of confidence, particularly by those who had the opportunity of leading the country before, to say, Mr. President, we trust you, go ahead. And the governors of the 36 states are saying, on behalf of our people, we are also with you, and we're also going to go back and do the necessary thing. It's a big thing. It's not every now and then that I have a vote of confidence passed by the Council of State.
All right, distinguished, I'll come back to you. So let me get the perspectives of Honorable Ayodele Adewale. Now, the Council of State has an important institution, has passed the vote of confidence on the president. What does this mean for this administration?
Well, it's a moral booster for the administration, and it helps to tell them that people appreciate what they are doing, and the activity is working in progress towards deepening the development in the country. The administration also is of note that there are a lot of imbalances, and they've come out readily many times to tell us what they're doing, and that they're doing their best to make sure that they bring back the robust prosperity that Nigerians duly deserve. And for the past president, like I did tell somebody today, that the vote of confidence is to give more encouragement to the president and the administration that we are with you, continue your best to govern this country aright, and of course to put the nation together.
Okay, so another angle from which Nigeria saw that entire meeting was the Council of State commending Nigerians for resisting unconstitutional change of government, emphasizing that if anyone was dissatisfied with this administration, such a person should wait for 2027. So does this also speak to the credibility of the 2023 presidential election and the ultimate victory of President Bola Tinubu?
Well, it does. It does, because the whole process was tested out to the Supreme Court. And in every stage of that process, it was very clear. And at the Supreme Court also, if you remember, it was televised. Everybody watched the process and all of that. And like it has been said, that if people are disenfranchised about what had happened, there's another opportunity in 2027 for them to build and rework all their processes. It will be very foolhardy for anybody to go by the back door to try to torpedo the democratic dispensation that we have now. And if there had been any crisis, I can guarantee you that it would have led to a bloodbath. I mean, for you to usurp or remove a constituted or constitutionally elected system, you must have to go through armed struggle, basically. And in doing this, a lot of people will lose their lives. And like President Jonathan said, that no life should be spilled because of the fact that anybody wants to, force his way into power. We should learn to campaign and, of course, try to convince people, lobby people to see it from our own perspective and let our programs, be a torch for people to, also put on their torch to see the light in order for them to vote for whoever. But as it is now, it is time for governance.
As an activist, does this also speak to or address dangers of ethnic politics and the consequences of it on the unity of this country, especially the struggle of our heroes that brought about this democracy we enjoy today?
There are consequences when people decide to play the ethnic card. We have seen what have happened in Burundi and in Rwanda, and we don't pray for such in Nigeria. We saw what happened during the Civil War. Whatever that happened there was not a consensus of those nationality groupings. It was some interest that threw it forward. But the consequences was very grave, and we don't want that in our political history anymore. The population of Nigeria is too large. If there's going to be an explosion, I can tell you that the West African sub-region cannot take that population. And the spill of that population will also go with crime, because people want to survive in whatever manner. Right? And it will continue to spill over Africa and across the world. So it's going to be a very disastrous situation. Take, for example, God forbid, there's crisis. The first casualty will be people of medical needs. You don't even need to shoot them. There are some people that live daily on some kind of medical supplies, drugs. Right? If you cut off those supplies, they will die in their millions. Right? So where are you going to bury them? Which cemetery will take them? You understand? So the best we can do is we all work together to put this nation at the road that we all want it to be, so that it will make better for all of us.
All right, so before I go back to Abuja studio, let's look at the president's scorecard in different sectors: economy, education, infrastructure. How has the president fared?
Well, he has done very well, because if you look at his journey towards gaining power, he has always put it up in his campaign, right? Starting from how he's going to save money by subsidy removal and all of that. He also talked about the educational system, how he intends to revamp it. He talked about the health sector and majorly on infrastructure. In terms of infrastructure, he has done tremendously well. You can't take that from him. And he has also gotten a very good hand in the Ministry of Works. The man is doing very, very well. In terms of security, they have also done their very best, looking at where we are coming from, where, spate of bombing all over the place and all of that. That is not to say that we don't still have some gaps. Those gaps are gradually being, shortened. And in no distant time, a lot of these things will be in the past. The much talked about CNG buses and all of that, they started rolling out. And I'm very happy that Innocent have come to take the lead. Just recently, they launched about 20 of it. Some other state governors have done their own. Private sector will key into it. The conversion system has started and all of that. And so many other things are coming upstream.
All right, I'll come back to you. Distinguished, you have said the president must continue to look for ways to mitigate this hardship. But let's also talk about the president's lieutenants, the ministers. Have they held their end of the renewed hope agenda of the president?
Well, I think the ministers have performed at varying levels. I must say that some of them who have really supported the renewed hope agenda and have been very, very clear in terms of deliverables. Some are also, I believe, to be afraid, and some are still trying to find their feet. But I think, remember, they didn't come in May. The ministers came much later. So some of them may still require maybe about a few more months for us to be able to totally and fully evaluate them. They have not spent 1 year in office, unlike the president, and some of them are just trying to even also do the many reforms that flow from a renewed hope agenda in the administration. So I believe that, yes, some of them have shown very clearly that their hands are fully on the plow. Some are still trying to find their feet. But one thing we must give to the president is that if you look at the elements of his political trajectory, one of the things that is famed for is that he's someone who is able to identify and hunt talent and to nurture those talents. So for me, I'm not particularly worried at all. We have seen him identify people. We have seen him nurture people as governor, even when he has left office as governor. So I have no doubt that he has his own scorecard. And do not forget the fact that the president made all the ministers to sign some performance bonds. So he has the checklist to measure their performance with him. He has the metrics. For those of us who are from outside, we can only speculate in terms of whether they are performing or not. But the president who has appointed them to work, the president who has made them to sign some performance bond and is measuring that, and is also known to be a leader who trusts, but he also inspects. He delegates without abdicating responsibilities. I have no doubt that sooner than later, the president will give an indication of the performance of his ministers. For now,
distinguished.
So far,
there is so
good.
much pressure. Distinguished, there is so much pressure on the president. Do you think there is time for them to still, be finding their balance, as you put it?
No, I believe there's much time. As I mentioned earlier on, when President Bola Tinubu came on board, and I'm going back to when he was governor of Lagos State. When he came on board in 1999 as governor of Lagos State, anybody who could recollect very well, people would be, at that point in time, for the first few months, people were lapponing him there and there, particularly coming after a military administrator that was perceived to be a performer, General Marwa. For the first few months in office, when the president was busy putting together his team, was busy putting together his strategic vision for Lagos State, people were not privy to that thought he was not ready for governance then. But what have you seen? From 1999 to 2024 that we are talking about, you could see his imprimatur in the governance of Lagos State. So I have no doubt that he knows exactly what he's doing with his ministers. He has appointed them. He must have a reason for him to ask them to sign some performance metrics. And he has established an office to measure their performances. I do not think it is too, it's a time yet to begin to write off the ministers or be worried about them. We can see some sequencing in what the president is also doing in terms of his priority areas. I could begin to see, for instance, that he wants to put infrastructure in place. When infrastructure is in place, every other thing can layer on it. You could see that the diversification you're also doing in terms of the economy. You can take the solid minerals as an example. You can also see what he's doing in terms of food security. You can see what he's doing in terms of preparing the country for technology advancement. Each of these ministers are doing things that may not be in the public glare yet. And I think we must also say this. It does appear to me as well that if there's one area that I would like to see an improvement, is further engagement of the citizens. Whenever the president comes out to speak to the people, they seem to listen and they seem to understand where he's headed. I think we need more of this engagement, even from the ministers, from the heads of government agencies, to engage the people, to carry them along so that they can have a buy-in for this reform. But I have no doubt that the reforms are clearly articulated and are headed in the right direction, and the reform is being led by the master strategy himself. Someone who has been a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, he has been governor of Lagos State, the heartbeat of the nation's economy. He has been a Nadeko chieftain. He has been known to be supporter of previous administration. He cannot come into his own beat and his own mandate, and he wouldn't know what to do with it. I have no doubt that by the time we're talking about his second year in office, the benefit of this reform will have been clear, and the performance of the minister will also have been manifest.